At 4 in the morning, while most of the world was asleep, Anthropic pushed a routine software update to NPM. Buried inside that update was a 60 megabyte debugging file that contained 512,000 lines of their proprietary source code, the entire Claude Code codebase, just sitting there, freely downloadable by anyone on the internet, and within 23 minutes, someone found it. When developers build JavaScript applications, there's a thing called a source map file. When you write code, you typically run it through a compiler or bundler that minifies and obfuscates everything. Think of it like taking a perfectly readable novel and compressing it into a single unreadable blob of text. But if anyone intercepts it, it looks like pure gibberish. Source maps are the cheat sheet that undoes all of that. They map the compressed output back to the original human readable source. They're an incredibly useful debugging tool, and they are absolutely not supposed to ship in production. Someone on Anthropic's team ran a production build of Claude Code. The compiler generated one of these map files, and then it got bundled straight into the NPM package they published to the world. One missed config line. That's all it took. To quote someone on X who explained it perfectly, it's like locking every door in your house, installing cameras, hiring armed guards, and then accidentally uploading your floor plans to Google Maps. Now, here's where the irony gets painful. Anthropic built a system inside Claude Code called Undercover Mode. Its entire purpose is to stop Claude from accidentally leaking internal secrets. They literally shipped an anti-leak system in their own product, and then they leaked their own source code in a .map file. A researcher named Chaofan Xu spotted the file within 23 minutes of the update going live. He downloaded it, posted the link on X, and that post went on to get over 21 million views. By the time anyone at Anthropic had woken up and realised what happened, the code had already been forked over 41,000 times across GitHub. Anthropic pulled the package and started firing DMCA takedowns at every repo hosting the code. But it was way too late. A developer named Sigrid Jin woke up to his phone absolutely exploding with notifications. Now, Sigrid is not your average Claude Code user. The Wall Street Journal reported that he personally burned through 25 billion tokens last year. For context, a typical user might hit a few million in a month. This guy is in a completely different category. He's been called the most active Claude Code user in the world. So his phone is blowing up. His girlfriend is apparently worried he's going to get sued just for having the leaked code on his machine. DMCA notices are flying everywhere. He read through the leaked code, understood the architecture, and then rewrote the entire thing from scratch in Python in 8 hours before sunrise. He called it Claude Code and pushed it to GitHub. Here's the legal genius of that move. A clean room rewrite is a new creative work. If you read someone's code and then independently write your own version from scratch without copy-pasting, that's your original code. DMCA can't touch it. Anthropic had no legal recourse. The repo hit 30,000 GitHub stars, faster than any repository in the history of the platform. Meanwhile, someone else mirrored the original leaked code to a decentralized platform with a single message saying, "Will never be taken down." Researchers also dug out several features that haven't been announced publicly yet, and some of them are genuinely wild. First, something called Buddy. It is described as a virtual pet companion that sits on your terminal. There are 18 different species, including duck, goose, capybara, and dragon, each with rarity tiers, and something the code calls an AI-generated soul. The theory is that Buddy is meant to be a persistent, personal AI agent with its own personality, one that just lives on your computer permanently. Second, something called Kairos. Named after the ancient Greek word for the right moment. It is mentioned over 150 times in the source code. The idea is an always-on background daemon that keeps running while you are idle. It uses a process called auto-dream to consolidate your memory, merge observations, remove contradictions, and convert vague notes into verified facts. Think of it as Claude quietly maintaining its understanding of your project while you are away from your desk. Third, something called UltraPlan. This one offloads a complex planning task to a remote cloud session running the most powerful model available, gives it up to 30 minutes to think, and then lets you approve the result from your phone or browser. Once approved, the plan gets pulled back into your local terminal automatically. Remote, cloud-powered reasoning. delivered locally. Fourth, coordinator mode. This is one Claude instance spawning and managing multiple worker agents running in parallel. The coordinator handles task distribution, pulls together their results, and resolves conflicts between outputs. So where does this all leave things? Anthropic took down over 8,000 GitHub repositories trying to contain the leak, and then had to walk that back too, because their DMCA notices were so broad they accidentally took down forks of their own public Claude Code repository. Developers started getting takedown notices for projects that had nothing to do with the leaked code. Anthropic acknowledged the mistake and retracted most of the notices. That is 2 errors in one cleanup operation. Boris Cherny, the creator of Claude Code, posted on X saying the deploy process has some manual steps, and they did not do one of them correctly. He also confirmed that Anthropic is on the fence about actually shipping Kairos, meaning the always-on background agent we talked about may never actually see the light of day publicly. This is the second leak in 5 days. Just days before this happened, Fortune reported that Anthropic had been storing thousands of internal files on a publicly accessible system, including a draft blog post about an upcoming model called Mythos. 2 accidental disclosures in 1 week, at a company currently valued at $380 billion and reportedly planning an IPO later this year. But Anthropic is also dealing with something most tech companies have never had to face at all. Just days before this leak, a federal judge had to step in to block the US government from branding Anthropic a national security threat. Here is what happened. Anthropic won a contract to provide the Pentagon with access to Claude. The Department of Defense then tried to get Anthropic to agree to let them use Claude for, quote, all lawful purposes. Anthropic said no to 2 specific things: autonomous weapons and the mass surveillance of American citizens. The Pentagon called that unacceptable. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth then used a designation normally reserved for foreign adversaries to label Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security. President Trump ordered all federal agencies to stop using Claude within 6 months. So in the space of about a week, Anthropic fought the US government in court, had their upcoming AI model leaked in a separate incident, and then had their entire codebase leak on NPM, while actively preparing for an IPO. While competitors at OpenAI and Google are pouring resources into taking their market share in coding tools. Boris Cherny earlier this year boasted that pretty much 100% of Claude Code is now written by AI, and then the code that Claude Code built got leaked to the entire internet through a config file that any engineer would have caught in a code review.